Very interested in having Japanese artifact decorative styling that this engraving of a dragon shows is a continuous movement that is also a cut.
Hello everybody, this is WarStory video vlog. I'm Alex and here is Martin. Hello Martin.
Hi Alex, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Last video with you was really cool and people got excited and they texted many comments under the video. I will show it to you. Yeah, so, and a lot of appreciation they sent to you like directly.
Good.
Yes, and it was really knowledgeable. Is it correct word, knowledgeable?
Yes, they became knowledgeable after seeing it.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And I have an idea, and I got big collection, and I'm trying to learn more about items from this collection. And could you tell us, my viewers and to everybody, some stuff about those three pieces?
The first piece is this sword that's out on the table, and it was mounted in the wooden scabbard called saya, and this of course is the handle. This is a storage scabbard, and it is designed with this tapered part to seal in the air and seal out the moisture for a sword in storage. And they use it in Japan because it's an island with moisture everywhere, and rust is a big problem. So by having this fitting tight on the handle on the tang of the sword, and the sword being manufactured so the sword fits perfectly, this sword can be protected, and so all the beautiful steel that's showing is not rusted. And this is called shira saya, which is storage scabbard. The sword that came out is a sword. Now we have to go back in history. Europeans and Western cultures discovered Japan in 1860s when Japan was welcoming visitors for the first time. And the cultures of the visitors and the Japanese, of course, didn't mix well because they have very different thoughts and ideas on how one should live. And so the Europeans at the turn of the century in the 1880s, they were very interested in having Japanese artifacts or things representing Japan. And the most famous thing would be the samurai sword. Second thing might be armor. And so this is representing the samurai sword, and in some of its decorative styling that this engraving of a dragon shows, and similar to the dragon on the other side. The sword was made during that time, and a lot of things were manufactured in Japan at that time just to send to Europe for people interested in having these things. I wouldn't call it a collector's group, but it is a cultural appreciation of their newly discovered neighbors across the world. And this sword was made at that time in the 1890s, and it continued 1880s, 1890s, continued into the 1920s of this century. The sword was made quickly and tempered with a real temper line, but it is not very functional as a weapon. This is just a representative piece that would be good for display. The signature on this end is a famous maker, and I can see by the way the signature was carved, it is not very artistic, it's block pattern. And so I would say this is to represent the kind of work Masahide might have created for the samurais. And that's what it says here, the maker is that.
And this one, I really like this one because it looks like it's in original condition and in original, like complete. And I really like Tsuba here.
Yes, this would be the middle-sized samurai sword, the wakizashi, which is from 12 inches long to 24, and something smaller which is 12 inches and shorter, is called the tanto. This sword, I believe, is longer than 12 inches, and yes, it's about 14. And so the Japanese have a very loving word for this. They call it the O tanto, which means large tanto, but they still like to describe it as the close companion style sword held close when they need it in a tight situation, like it in a building. The blade is very large and seems to have been made very well. The temper line is very clear and has a lot of good control. There are 2 grooves cut down the sword, one on each side. They are to lighten the sword, steel is removed, but they also strengthen the sword, especially if it were longer. The grooves cut are in a circular, half-circular pattern, and that gives I-beam construction rigidity to the blade. And this represents a true samurai piece that I believe probably was made earlier. I haven't taken it apart, but the handle has very nice original samurai wrap in leather, so that's probably later, more like 17 and 1800s. They didn't use leather earlier. It doesn't weather very well, and that would not be good for a weapon. But the fittings are consistently excellent, the kind of thing that a samurai would select and enjoy owning.
Perfect. Just get it over the top.
The third sword is this sword mounted with a wooden scabbard with decoration rings painted, or lacquered rather. It has shown some wear, but it is amazingly healthy and all together at this time through its trip through history.
This goes here.
The handle seems traditional and typical. The wrap has been replaced. The tsuba is a nice iron tsuba that would be used in combat. Strong and has a lot of good steel around the rim area, so it can perform its job. I'm going to take the blade out of its scabbard now. We always take it out on the back of the sword so that no injury occurs to the sides of the blade or at the sharp edge, which is on top. And the back of the sword is made in a roof pattern, and the scabbard has a V section at the bottom, so the V guides the center of the roof of the sword. So I put the sword in carefully at the tip, and then I slide the sword without grabbing the handle very hard or very tightly, and allow the sword to guide itself into the scabbard. Now I'm going to remove it by sliding it outward in the same, and concentrate on the mouth of the scabbard to make sure the sword blade stays in the center. This sword has a real temper line, and it can be seen as a thin line, wavy, going down the sword all the way from one end to the other. And the same temper line is shown, and the temper comes to the tip and then curls around the tip, so from here to here it's always sharp, and from here down it's always sharp. The tip of the sword does most of the cutting. This is usually the cutting region on a sword. This area is just for support. I'm going to turn it over and look at the temper line. It's similar to the other side. There's some waves that are very graceful, and of course the temper comes around the tip and stops on the back side. The sword is long, straightish, and if I were going to say, this style of sword was made by the Japanese in the Kanbun period, which is 1680s, 1670s, because that was a time when Japan experimented with using a straight sword, straighter than they usually use. Their swords are generally very curved or somewhat curved, similar to the saber sword fighting in Europe. And they found that it did not work with their style of drawing the sword from the side, because with a straight sword I have to draw in this way, and that's not consistent with the posture that a samurai uses when he draws a samurai sword from here and it curves this way, because drawing of the sword is a continuous movement that is also a cut. And so they stopped making this Kanbun style, the straight style, in about 20 years. But everyone knows, if they study the swords a little bit, about this period. It's very unusual for the Japanese to create a samurai sword with a very straight appearance. So that is that. I don't think you want me to look at or do you?
Yeah, can we see?
I can try. Where's my peg pusher? We got the peg out. It was very tightly pressed in. And now I will try to get the tang of the sword out of the handle. We use momentum transfer technique, which means I apply pressure and an impact by my soft hand on a certain horizontal angle to get the handle to move, and the sword stays in its place by inertia. There's the tang of the sword. It has no name, no date. It has it appears to be a sword made later than 1680s Kanbun period, that's early in Shinto, as a copy of the Kanbun sword. But straight swords like this are generally called lovingly Kanbun Shinto.
And what do you think about period of producing this?
Period of producing, this is...
It hasn't been shorted, or?
No, it's original length. This is all original. It was made this size. I would say it was made in the 1860s, 1880s, about the period of time we're talking about for gifts or for collectibles sent to Europe for their enjoyment and appreciation. Oh, it's that loose. Oh. Okay, we're now going to take the handle off the sword, leaving behind the guard, the tsuba, and the seppa, the spacers, and I'm going to leave them together and show you that the tang of the sword shows no writing on this side, just decent rust, which is older rust than what we've seen on these two swords. And this sword had classic characteristics from an earlier time also in the blade, so that's consistent. And this appears to be the original tang unchanged, and is probably made earlier times, and the blade does also have characteristics of an earlier time, which is the temper line, and the grain in the steel is fine. So I would say this sword was made in the 1680s period of time, middle Shinto period. This is early. The rust is darker on the tang, and the surface is original. It's been unchanged, and so this sword would be from the 1680s, whereas these items were made in the 1880s, 200 years later, and this is a real sword made for samurai use.
This is very cool, and thank you for,
Yeah. That's my best guess or opinion.
Yeah, and thank you for your opinion. It was super cool. It was just a 12, maybe 13 minutes video, but it's plenty of information here, and it's really cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
See you on all these items, and I actually really like this short one but I didn't think this one is that early period, so it's really cool. And probably
I like the shorter style myself.
What do you think? Is it better to relock this one, or it's better to just leave
It's
it?
the person's choice. I like to leave history remain as it was discovered because we can learn from it. But if others want to have it redone, there are people that do it professionally, trained in Japan, and it is a special material.
Yeah.
They can do it, and you will be happy with the results. I personally leave things as I find them and
I agree.
and pass them on to others. Hopefully they will appreciate and understand that
Yeah.
steel lasts longer than wood and lacquer when it comes to mishandling. Handling properly, they will last for a long time.
Yeah. And I actually do the same with my items. I usually try to keep it in that condition
Yeah.
when how I bought it. And the main reason you can like repair or do something with item, but you can do it only once. You cannot go back to the past. You know?
And you have
What I mean.
you have to prepare properly, have experience. Doing something for the first time on such a beautiful sword would be a foolish gesture. The results you'll be disappointed in, and the sword will also be disappointed.
Oh yeah. So we will see what we're gonna do with this one. So again, thank you for reviewing my items.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for watching this video until the end. I hope you are enjoying this video, and if so, leave comments under the video. I will show it to Martin next Allentown show. And thank you for management of Allentown Military Antique Show, because we have the great opportunity to see each other here
Yes.
like several times per
Yes.
year, and that's really cool. Okay, thank you.
You're
once
welcome.
again.
I enjoyed this a lot myself.
Thank you. So have a good one and see you real soon.